Hey friends, it's Ruben with Hi-Fi MIDI. If you found this video, you've likely already heard the news. Omnisphere 3 has arrived. You might be wondering whether it's worth upgrading from version 2, or perhaps you've had your eye on it for a while and are considering that rather significant $499 price tag. So, is Omnisphere worth it? Well, I hope to answer that question in this video. But what exactly is Omnisphere? It's a remarkably deep synthesizer that allows you to combine tens of thousands of sampled and synthesized sounds, shaping them with an enormous array of tools to create virtually anything you can imagine, from ethereal pads and shimmering plucks to evolving textures and cutting leads. You truly couldn't explore everything it offers in a single lifetime, and that makes me a little sad. If you're not a sound designer and prefer to spend your time making music rather than crafting patches, Omnisphere's beautifully organized library, complete with advanced tagging and filtering, makes finding the perfect sound fast and intuitive. In this video, I'll walk through some of the features in Omnisphere 3 that I personally love, share some of my favorite sounds, and give you my overall verdict. And because there's simply too much to cover in one sitting, I'll be following up with a series of videos exploring each main sound category in detail, for those of you who don't like hearing me talk. A continuation of my previous Omnisphere series from a few years back. Let's see if we can make it to the end this time. Let's dive in. So really quick, what's new? Omnisphere has a massive new factory library. In fact, it has 18 curated libraries featuring over 26,000 new patches, which you can access here. You can see the legacy libraries as well, if you want just the sounds that were in Omnisphere 2. I'll go through those in a little bit. The crazy thing is that even though it has 26,000 new patches, it still keeps the same footprint of 65 gigabytes, thanks to its lossless optimization. So you don't have to worry about shelling out extra money for a new SSD or deleting those unused libraries from your hard drive. Let's go ahead and explore some of these, and I'm going to play some of my favorite sounds. Here is Analog Vibes. When you select a directory, you can browse by category to make finding your sound a lot easier. I'm just going to go through a couple of these. One of the first things I noticed was that the sounds are really loud or in your face, so I'm going to lower this just a little bit. Really cool sound. So the sounds in here sound vintage. They have this really cool quality where the pitch begins to drift a little bit. Here's classic digital, more 80s and 90s. That is gorgeous. All right, let's skip a few. One thing I really love about Omnisphere 3 is that rather than just rating the sound that you love, you can hide sounds that you don't like in order to avoid having to go over it. Just right click and press hide. I love the sound, so I'm going to keep it. Let's listen to retro vibes. That's a cool one. Really great. Electronic production. Those of you who know. Electronic Underground. Now this is not my domain, so I'm just gonna go with what I like. Wow, that's amazing. I like that one. All right, let's go on. Hard edges. Goopy sloppy sub. Ooh. These are amazing descriptions or amazing names. So in this one, you're not going to get pretty sounds. It's exactly as it says, hard edges. All right, Clubland, I'm expecting to hear club sounds, maybe arpeggios, beats, stuff like that. All right, that one's really cool. I love that. Wow. That one takes advantage of the arpeggiator, which is pretty powerful. These sounds are incredible. I don't even make this type of music, and I'm inspired to. Ambient dreams, this is one of my favorite. If you know me, if you've been following me for years, you know that I love dreamy stuff, beautiful stuff. Let's see what they have. That's gorgeous. Oh my goodness. A wash in glory. These are just breathtaking. I want to stay on this one forever. But I have to go on. Organic vibes. This is going to give you sounds based off of natural sampled instruments. Of course, with lots of effects. This is an ASMR sound. I feel like it's tickling my brain. Really cool. Lure of the Dark. Ooh. It is amazing. Oh my goodness. This is going to take up most of the video, I think. Warm tones. All right. Analog Elysium. What are my ears hearing? Man, that is gorgeous. This is so peaceful. I would buy it just for these sounds right here. My goodness. Scoring electronic. Ooh, that's unsettling. Enter the underworld. Oh my goodness. Wow. That's making me twist my face. It's such an unsettling but really cool sound. Wow. Scoring organic? Ooh, let's hear Adagio String Symphony. Oh, nice. You have a bigger ensemble here. When you move your module up, but when it's down, you get more of that detail, so it's a smaller group and it's a lot closer. That is simply gorgeous. Let's listen to the choir. Wow. Wow. Everything about this so far is just amazing. Okay, experimental organic. We've done a lot of heavenly stuff. Let's do demons in the air. That's sending shivers down my spine. Alright, something with a different theme. Really nice. Instruments collection. Alright, this is one area where I've always thought that Omnisphere wasn't really current on, because a lot of modern sample libraries that are dedicated to specific instruments have multiple layers, different articulations, but that's not what Omnisphere is for. Now, some of their sounds they can pass off as the real instrument if you play them just right, or if you play them very sparsely, or have them covered up with other instruments. But their instruments sound like they're somewhere in between a dedicated sample library and a high-end keyboard workstation. For example, Adagio Espressivo doesn't have many layers, but it's so expressive and beautiful. That's just so beautiful. Allegretto transparent strings. So your attack is going to change based on how you play. As a matter of fact, when you have the mod wheel down, it gives a slower attack, and when you raise it, it gives it an accent. Let's listen to some other ones. That's a nice guitar. Live keyboardist. I'm guessing this is for live keyboardists. So let's see what type of sounds they have that might be useful on stage. Really fun sounds. Vocal collection. Now, I've heard the choirs before, they sound great. I want to see if they have anything out of the ordinary. Humming Man. Japanese children's choir. It's pretty. You know, these sounds have always been cheesy to me. But they're kind of cool. Sound effects, electronic. Ooh, no, I don't like that one. Grandfather's clock is creepy. So once again, 18 curated libraries featuring over 26,000 new patches. This is going to take a long time to get through all of these. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next feature, which is adaptive global controls. Now let me start a new patch here. And I'm going to give you an overview of how Omnisphere already works. So you have 4 layers here, A, B, C, and D. These are your sound sources, and you can choose between synth and samples. And when you click on it, you get a list of all the waveforms, all the type of sounds you can use. When you open up samples, you get this huge list here, which you can use as your primary source. Down here at the bottom, you can turn on each layer and adjust its volume, as well as its filter, its envelope, modulation, LFO, and the sound source type. Now you have the ability to shape the envelope of every sound as long as on the main page you have an independent signal path. So I'm going to layer 4 sounds and just give you a quick idea of how this works. This is if you're a sound designer and are thinking of a certain type of sound. Now I am not a sound designer. I like using other people's work, but I'm going to show you how this works. I want my first sound to be a sample of, let's say, a string. So I'm going to click on string family. Another thing I can do is search for the sound here and type it in. And then I'm going to listen to these. So let me turn these off first. That has a very far sound. I don't like it. That sounds fine. Now, if it doesn't sound good to you, that's because of its default settings. I'm going to choose atmosphere strings close A. Then I'm going to mess with the amplitude and give it a longer attack so that it sounds like a string easing in. Maybe a little slower. Then I want to give it some release. That sounds fine. Maybe a little bit less. Oh, that's fine. My second sound source is going to be a boys choir. So I go to Human Voices, Voice Choir, And I want an ooh, because oohs sound very beautiful. I'm going to select this one here. Now I want to listen to that one by itself, so I'm going to turn off A. That one has the same problem where I need to adjust the envelope. And the release. This is how they sound together. Strings are too loud though. And the release on B is a little bit too long. Now my next sound is going to be a celeste. So I'm going to click on sample. And celeste is going to be under bell, I believe. Maybe not. If you're unsure, just type it in. This one's fine right here. Okay, let's hear it with the rest of these. Now I want the celeste to be an octave higher. Right now it's set an octave lower. So I'm going to click on plus 12. That sounds nice. And the last sound I want is a tremolo, mandolin tremolo. So that's going to be a sample as well. I'm going to type in mandolin. So we have mandolin tremolo here. Let's hear how that sounds. Now this is the first step of this. And then I'm going to add effects like reverb. I'm going to try the velvet verb. That sounds nice. All right, so I've adjusted every sound individually using their independent controls. On the global control, you have all these functions here that are going to affect all these sounds at once. And I'll show you what it's going to do. Here's vibrato. Doesn't sound great with this. It's more for synth, I believe. You can add a filter. Add resonance. And adjust how much of the envelope is affecting it. On the envelope, we can choose amp or filter. Raising the attack is going to make it swell together. And the filter envelope is going to affect this here, the cutoff. Then you can adjust the ambience. And the tone. I'm going to turn this off. So that is a global control. It makes it a lot simpler to use. The real magic happens with the quad zone, which is another new feature. I have all 4 sounds playing at the same time, but what if I don't want it to behave that way? Under quad zone, and this is shown on the official video, if I turn it on, I can set the way I want these sounds to play, the way I want them to come in, when I want them to come in. For example, if I wanted certain patches to be on specific keys, I can limit that by going to notes and dragging this. And the strings are going to be only on these high keys. Tremolo might be in the middle. Celeste might be on the higher ones. And the boys will be throughout all the keys. If I wanted to separate them by velocity, I can do that as well. Let's say I have Celeste on the high velocities. When I hit it hard, it's going to trigger the Celeste. However, I don't want to do it that way. The last way is using the fader, which is a really cool tool. You can assign this slider to any control on your keyboard by right-clicking it and hitting MIDI CC Learn. So in this case, I'm going to hit it and then turn the knob on my controller. And I'm going to set it to where the strings are playing throughout the entire range and where the boys choir comes in about, let's say 48. But I want it to fade in. The mandolin will be between values 48 and whatever this is, 80. And then at its highest point, I'm going to have the Celeste. So now when I move this knob, and it's all the way at the bottom, you're only going to hear the atmosphere strings. And then as I raise it, you're going to start hearing the mandolin tremolo and then the boys choir. But I think the mandolin came in too strong. So I'm going to drag this and do this. And as you play it, you can decide whether it has the feel that you want. For example, the mandolin cuts off all of a sudden, and I don't want it to. So I can make that adjustment. And that's Quad Zone. It's such a powerful tool, especially if you're a sound designer. All of these parameters and settings can be changed randomly by pressing the mutate button. The mutate button is going to add a random setting to all of these, virtually giving you a new sound. When you press this, it's going to add changes to it, and you can see what it's done to your sound. And you can see whether it's changed any of the sound sources. So far it hasn't, except for the Tuvan male. But if I go to extreme, it's going to change a lot. Now some of these sound terrible. But it's a cool feature in case you want to see what Omnisphere can throw at you. Omnisphere comes with 36 new filter types, and a filter gives a synth, its sonic characteristic. You can see them here. And you can filter through them, no pun intended, by clicking this down arrow or up arrow. Another cool setting is vintage oscillator drift. Omnisphere 3 can emulate a vintage analog synthesizer, which is really hard to do. If you raise this, you're going to start hearing that pitch drift. And that's what gives those vintage synthesizers their charm. As mentioned earlier, it's a lot easier to find sounds because the tags and the naming configuration has made it so much easier to find what you're looking for. For example, under guitars, we have acoustic, BPM, distorted, effects, some more menus, which makes it easier to navigate. Well, let me find a flamenco guitar. Nostalgic. I'm thinking of a pluck with the shimmer effect. So let me go under pluck. And let's see if it has something like that. Okay. Not exactly what I was looking for, but it's coming close. Now I want a very warm pad with a slow filter on it. So I'm going to go to pads. I want something analog. Let's see if it has that word in there. There you go, analog. It might be under retro. No, maybe it's going to be under swell. I think Chariot CS80 was the one closest to what I was looking for. Now, if you find a good sound, but you think that there may be other ones that are better, you can go to match. This is something that was in the previous version, but I love using this one because if the sound is not quite what you want, but you don't want to give up on your search, you can just audition all of them. That's closer to what I wanted right there. Now, I didn't cover all the features in this video because not all of them apply to what I do. I mostly wanted to talk about what I love about the new Omnisphere 3. And there's other things like expanded hardware integration, the effects rack, which I think is pretty amazing, and maybe I'll use it in another video. But my verdict on this is that if you have version 2, this is a massive upgrade and totally worth the $200. If you don't own Omnisphere 3, or if that price is very off-putting, I recommend this for people who are professionals and need all the sounds they can get, or people who want inspiration and need all the sounds they can get, or someone who's just getting started and doesn't know how to create any of their own sounds and needs all the sounds that you can imagine. I say that tongue in cheek, but my verdict is that this is a phenomenal product. I highly recommend it. 100%. Take out a bank loan, ignore Dave Ramsey, and buy this. You're going to get inspired. You're going to want to create music. As I said before, I'm going to follow up with more videos going over the sounds and then favorite mine. But in the meantime, if you enjoyed this review, please hit that thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with my latest videos. Leave a comment below telling me what you love about this or what's been your experience. And also, please visit hifimidi.com for MIDI packs and MIDI programming tutorials. Thanks for watching.